There are many great car collections out there, but when it comes to famous car collection, no one can come close to the Sultan of Brunei. With endless money in his pocket, the Sultan managed to build a legendary car collection, with not just regular cars, but also with some special one-off cars, which were built just for this collection. So guys, welcome to Dream Garage, and here is the collection of the Sultan of Brunei. Brunei is an oil-rich nation of only 470,000 people, on the northwestern coast of the island of Borneo. A tropical rainforest, Brunei exists mainly because of the massive oil-gas reserves. An Islamic sultanate, dating back to the 14th century, Brunei is ruled by Sultan Hassan Bolkiah, an absolute monarch, who has ruled since 1967. Forbes has ranked the Sultan as the world's wealthiest monarch for decades, with an estimated fortune in the range of $22 billion. Even though the collection is known as the Sultan of Brunei car collection, the collection was actually created by Prince Jeffrey, the Sultan's third brother. Prince Jeffrey was born in November 6, 1964, and he became Minister of Finance in 1986. Prince Jeffrey controlled the revenue from oil and gas reserve through the Brunei Investment Authority and a network of companies under the name Amadeo. In the wake of the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the Sultan had external accountsmen audit the books of BIA, resulting in charges by the Brunei government that Prince Jeffrey had embezzled $14.8 billion. In 2000, Prince Jeffrey settled with the government of Brunei, and he began returning assets, including more than 500 properties in Brunei and abroad, more than 2,000 cars, 100 paintings, 5 yachts, and one of which was called Tits, and the tenders Nipple 1 and Nipple 2, and 9 private jets. According to the court documents, the prince had spent $78 million at Pininfarina for coach-built right-hand-wheel drive Ferraris, for $175 million at Rolls-Royals, and $900 million at British jewelry as spray. It's hard to say how many cars were actually built, but it's assumed that around 2,000 cars were built, even though some sources say that were 5,000 cars, and some 7,000 cars. But judging from the sources, the 2,500 seems the more believable. Also, it's hard to say a value, as we have seen with the portfolio program Ferraris and with the Rolls-Royals Swiftail, the prices for a one-off coach-built car can jump from $1 million to $30 million. But judging that he spent $500 million only at Rolls-Royals, the collection at least costed $1 billion. Prince Jeffrey had many Mercedes, at least 300. Most of them were W140, C140 and R129, many of which were AMG Specials, probably 7.3s. 7.3s are rare, since AMG didn't build many of them. Plus, Brunei is a right-hand wheel drive country, which makes these cars even more special. But the most interesting version of the W140, of not just this collection, is the Wagon 7.3 AMG. Beside the monstrous engine and the new rear, the car had also received the nose of a C140. It's not clear how many the prince actually ordered, but he said that it's something between 10 to 15 cars. This particular car in this picture has never been to Brunei, since this car belonged to a Chinese businessman. Also, the prince owned only 2 right-hand wheel drive CLK GTRs that were built just for him. Both cars went for sale in 2009. Since they were right-hand wheel drive cars, they were sold way below the typical CLK GTR price, even though the cars had minor mileage. The prince also had 6 300 SL AMGs. These cars were fitted with a 6-liter V8 with 380 horsepower. Since we are talking about AMG, also 6 Mercedes Argento Vivos were built. These cars were fitted with a 7.3-liter engine and were based on the R129. But the interesting thing is that originally the Argento Vivo was designed by Pininfarina and was a Honda concept powered by a 5-cylinder engine. GZ is a car that is loved by everyone, but only around 12 cars were ever built, and the Prince owned 3 of them, all right-hand wheel drive. The sad thing is that for whatever reason, they decided to replace the V16 engine of one of these GZs with a Ferrari V12 engine. This GZ, together with the blue one, have left the country, and the blue one was up for sale some time ago. Not much is known about the BMWs, but sources suggest that many Alpinas are part of the collection, among them some special right-hand wheel drive cars. But the Nazca M12 is enough to make this collection even more interesting. The M12 was a concept designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro for BMW. The M12 was meant to be an evolution of the M1, which also was designed by Giugiaro. The power came from the M70B50, the same engine that powered the 750i and the 850i. Sadly, BMW never built this car, but like the other cars, Prince loved the car so much that he ordered Italdesign to build a road-going version of it. Unlike the first show car, the production version was fitted with a S70B56 engine, but upgraded by Alpina to produce more horsepower. Probably more than one car was built. A blue M12 was up for sale some time ago together with the GZ. The interesting thing is that the car doesn't have the BMW badge, but the Italdesign one, probably because BMW didn't allow them to use their logo. I think that the Prince might also own some BMW's C2s, judging that this car came at the same time as the BMW M12, and also was designed by Italdesign. Like with the BMWs, not much is known about the Lamborghinis, but many Countach, Diablos and LM002s were part of the collection. But only 2 cars worth mentioning, the Diablo SA30 Iota and the Wagon LM002. The Diablo SA30 was built to celebrate the 13th anniversary of Lamborghini, and was more powerful and lighter than the regular Diablo. Only 150 SA30s were ever made. Out of these 150 Diablos, 28 were Iota Specials. Lamborghini had used the Iota name before with the Miura Iota, and like with the Miura, the Diablo Iota was a more truck-focused car, and with more power and even lighter than the SA30. It's said that the Prince owns one of these cars. Also, he had 3 Wagon LM002s, some of which have left Brunei now. The McLaren F1 is a rare car, but not so rare in this collection. The Prince has 10 F1s, out of the 106 that were ever built. 5 of these were standard F1s, 2 of these cars have left Brunei. One of the 3 F1s that didn't leave Brunei was completely destroyed in an accident. The other 5 cars are the most interesting ones. If you see carefully in this picture, you can actually see the F1 GTR, which was painted with a Le Mans winning livery. Originally was assumed that this was the Le Mans car, but this car actually was a replica built just for the Prince. Also 3 LM F1 are part of the collection. One was painted with a McLaren orange, but the other 2 had a terrible ugly livery. This is one of the cars, and as you see it has a dual-tone scheme with some weird blue, yellow and silver striping under the headlights and under the doors. Also one of the only 2 long-tail GTs that were ever built for homologation purpose was owned by the Prince. Since we are talking about 19 supercars, the Prince also had something between 4 to 6 AB110s, one of which had a similar weird livery like the LM F1. He also had a big Porsche collection and many 959s. He at least owned 4 DAUER's 962 and 1 LM version. But I'm not going to talk much about the DAUER since I'm working on a video about the Porsche 962 and there I'm going to explain the full story of DAUER. Now let's talk about special coach build cars, because these are the most interesting ones. Like with the previous supercars, Prince Jeffrey had many XJ220s. In this picture alone are 8 of them, but the Pininfarina XJ220 is the most interesting one. This XJ220 had received a completely new body, and also was shortened than the regular XJ220. In the front, Pininfarina removed the pop-up headlights and replaced them with a pair of stock ones. Pininfarina also completely redesigned the rear part, which I think it looks better than the regular XJ. He also was the owner of at least one XJR15. Around 200 Ferraris were part of the collection. 1 288 GTO Evoluzione, 8 F50s, one of which was in black and another in silver, 9 F40s and 1 F40 LM. All the F40s were customized by Pininfarina and had received a new interior, like this one for example, which was up for sale some time ago. An interesting fact about this car is that it has Testarossa seats. For whatever reason, Prince Jeffrey didn't like the F40 seats. The sad thing is that he did the same thing with the LM. The F40 LM was painted black and had received a new interior, with black leather seats, power windows and air conditioning. In 1989, Ferrari presented the Mythos, a car based on the Testarossa. The Mythos was built to show the future of Ferrari, in design and technology. Ferrari never intended the Mythos for production, but with tons of money in his pocket, Prince Jeffrey convinced Pininfarina to build at least 2 fully functional Mythos, one in red and one in blue. The F90 was another Ferrari concept. Like the Mythos, the F90 was built to show the new era, the 90s. The F90 had a very controversial design. Some people hated it, some people loved it. Prince Jeffrey was one of the people who liked the design. He ordered 6 F90s. This red one is one of them. The Prince liked the 456 GT a lot, but he wasn't very happy with the rear space, so he ordered Pininfarina to build a wagon version of it. Pininfarina accepted the deal, but only if he would buy 7 456 wagons, or 456 GT Venice, how the car was named. Prince Jeffrey told Pininfarina that he only needed 6 of them, but anyway he would pay for all the 7 cars. One 456 GT Venice costed $1.5 million, making a total of $10.5 million. The story of the sedan 456 is a little bit unclear, since sources say that her Arab businessman ordered 4 sedans, and later on Prince Jeffrey ordered 4 others. Also some Spider versions were built, also by Pininfarina. But the numbers are unknown. Some sites say that only 2 cars were built, but judging by the pictures, they are at least 456 GT Spiders. The F50 is one of the most beautiful cars of all time, but the F50 body is a true weird looking car. Basically nothing is known about this car, just the fact that it was based on a F50 and that was designed by Pininfarina. But the best Ferrari of the collection is the Testarossa based FX. The FX has a really interesting story. The first FX was originally ordered by the son of the Prince Jeff, Prince Hakim. After receiving $1 billion in cash for his 18th birthday, Prince Hakim wanted a special Ferrari, so he ordered Pininfarina to build not just another rebodied Ferrari, but a Ferrari with a semi-automatic transmission, technology that didn't exist in any street legal car at the time. Pininfarina turned to the British racing outfit ProDrive, which at the time was working on a semi-automatic transmission for the street that could be fitted directly to a manual gearbox. Buttons on the steering wheel would shift the gears, while an electronic unit would work with a clutch. The complex ProDrive system was mated to the stock Ferrari 6-speed manual gearbox. The beautiful body was made out of carbon fiber, something that made the FX even more special. After the Prince received the car, he ordered Pininfarina to build 3 more FX. The first one was red, the second yellow and the third black, but the most famous one is the Blue FX. Differently from the first FX, this car was sent to Williams for a better semi-automatic transmission. Williams plugged the semi-automatic unit they had been using in Formula 1. One of the things that set Williams and ProDrive apart is that Williams used pedals instead of the buttons that ProDrive used. The car was still under development in 1997, when the Asian market crashed, so this SFX never made it to Brunei. This car was sold to Dick Marconi for $1.5 million. The car is still at Marconi Museum in Tustin, California, together with a V12 Chisetta and one of the 456 Spiders. Also, many coach-built Astons were part of the collection. One of the first ones was the V8 Vantage Special CS1. This car had received a completely new body, which was inspired by the DB4 Zagato. The Special Series 1 was followed by a second design, called the Series 2. The design of the Series 2 was a mix between the Series 1 and the V8 Vantage. These cars probably were designed by Zagato, especially the Series 2, and later on were built in UK. But these are just rumors. A third series was planned, but any car was ever made. Pininfarina would appear again, this time would build two special one of Aston Martins, again based on the V8 Vantage V1600. Originally Pininfarina offered 6 different models to the Prince, but he only liked the AM3 and the AM4. AM3 is probably the strangest because of the nose, which is basically completely different from every Aston Martin, since it's missing the iconic shark grille. The AM4 was the other Aston Martin that Pininfarina built. The AM4 had a very similar design with the DB7 in the front. The rear had a very weird look, with black rear lights. But the most interesting cars of the collection are the Rolls and the Bentleys. Many Rolls were part of the collection, but most of them were standard, not coach-built special. The Rolls-Royce Phantom Majestic is one of the special coach-built cars. The interesting thing about this car is that it was built by Bertone. This car was probably ordered by the Sultan himself, since the car has appeared in many places. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Prince Geoffrey had spent $475 million at the Rolls-Royce, and definitely most of the money went for the coach-built Bentleys. Some of the names of these cars might be wrong, so sorry guys, but not much information exists about these cars. The B2 and the B3 were both built by Pininfarina. The cars shared the same design with each other, just the B2 was a convertible and the B3 was a coupe. 13 B2 and B3s were made, and both were presents for the Prince Geoffrey birthday. According to Paolo Garella, which worked at Pininfarina at the time and was responsible for most of the coach-built cars, the B2 and the B3 were some of the favorite cars of Prince and his brother. The most interesting B2 is this, which was painted black top to bottom, black paint, black tinted window, black headlights and rear lights, and a black interior. This is called a Bentley Buccaneer. This car was made by the French coach builder Helios. Besides this, not much is known about this car. This was called the Bentley Grand Prix, but beside this picture nothing is known about this car. The interesting thing about the Buccaneer and Grand Prix is that they share some design similarities with the Bentley Continental GT. With crazy money coming from Brunei, Bentley used these cars as design studies for their future cars. This is the Silverstone, and like with the Grand Prix we don't have much information, besides the fact that the car probably was built in California, by Giorgio Gaffolio. This is probably the weirdest looking Bentley of the collection in my opinion. Sources say that 7 Silverstone were built, and some were coupes and some convertibles. Some other Bentleys are the Java, Camelot, Monte Carlo and Rapier. The Rapier was spotted some time ago in the streets of London. But the most famous Bentley of the collection is definitely the Dominator. Before Bentley would introduce the Bentayga, they built this special USV for the Prince. The Dominator was based on a Range Rover Series 2. 6 Dominators were built. One of the Dominators left Brunei some time ago for unknown reasons. This is interesting because most of the cars of the collection have never been outside Brunei. So how much the collection worth today? It's hard to say actual numbers, but judging that the collection costed the prince at least $1 billion, I would say that the collection would worth at least $500 million today. And there are two reasons about this. First is that the coach-built cars were not worth as much as they costed to build. Those cars were built just for the prince and no one else, so it's hard to find people that would pay crazy money about these cars. The only coach-built cars they might be worth something are the concept cars, like the Mythos and the F19. The Ferraris probably will not be as valuable as the other Ferraris. First, like with the coach-built cars, this car had new paint and new interiors, just for the prince. Second, all the cars were right-hand wheel drive cars, and like we have seen with the CLK GTR of the prince, the cars were sold way below the average CLK GTR price, and this just because they were right-hand wheel drive. But the most important thing is that we don't know the condition of the collection. One sources say that the cars, at least the McLaren F1s, were in pretty good condition, but another source by a Ferrari broker says that when he visited the collection back in 2002, the cars were in rough condition. Originally the cars had their own special mechanics. McLarens had their own, Ferraris their own, AMG their own, etc. But after the prince went bankrupt, all the mechanics left the country, so no one took care of the cars. The sources say that most of the damage was on the interior of the cars, when the plastic and the leather had melted down. So in the end this might be the greatest collection, in terms of numbers, but it's far away from being the best collection.